All right. Before we move too fast, let's go ahead and take a peek inside this here 65 Comet. Body isn't too bad. Looks like it got hit by a door, or maybe, I wonder if that opened a little. Oh, yeah. Someone has definitely opened the door a little too far. Dinged it up a little bit, but don't worry about that. She'll buff right out. But if we keep moving along, looks like it's got pretty decent rocker panels. Front fenders look pretty good. See what the other one's looking like. Front bumper, still chrome and shiny. What's the other side looking like? Oh yeah, it's all there. This side's rockers, not too bad. Now, here's where it starts to get a little more rough. These rear quarters are a little gone. I believe the other side is a similar story. Yeah, a little toasty. Missing the rear glass. I hope, can't remember if I got trim for this or not. I hope I do. That might be hard to find. This door is broken. It won't, it'll open, it just won't close. I did have to ratchet strap it on the way home. Well, let's go ahead and open this thing up and take a look. Door cards are in pretty decent shape. Seats look really nice. Couple minor tears and some water damage back there. A few more tears in it, but what's the dash look like? Looks complete. Even got a radio. Ooh, it moves. But got all the parts needed right here in the bucket. Headliner could use some work, some replacing in the back there as well. How many miles we got on this? Looks like 78,000. Most likely 178, or maybe not. It might be. Shifter seems free. But let's go ahead and take a look down here in the power factory. There we go. Oh boy. Yeah, this is going to be a project. Looks like we got a 289. I was told it is free. It does spin, but she's definitely missed a few oil changes and has been out in the elements. I believe my plan's going to be yank the whole engine, transmission, everything out of there. And I think on this first episode, we'll go ahead and rebuild this. I've already got a whole bunch of parts coming for just a simple rebuild. You know, we're not going to go too crazy on it. We're not going to put any crazy power. I think the biggest thing I'm going to do to this, maybe 4-barrel intake, new carburetor, maybe wake this little 289 up a little bit. So we'll, now that we've got the tour, we'll go ahead and start tearing this down. I think I'm going to start just by getting it up in the air, disconnect the drive shaft and the transmission support, and then we'll go ahead and work on yanking this out of here. drive shaft U-bolts straps are unbolted. Let's see how difficult it is now to pop the drive shaft out of it. Just gonna try and get the crowbar. Get this crowbar in there. One-handed might be a little difficult. There she goes. Oh. Don't fall out pins. There we go. She's free. Let's go ahead and slide it out and remove it. Drive shaft officially out. I think now we can move to step 1B and disconnect all the linkages and hosing and everything else on the transmission. Not sure how well it's going to show up on camera, but we got the speedometer cable out. That's just held in by one bolt up there. So we got it dangling now. And the shift linkage was just a single cotter key holding that in place. So nothing too exciting. Gonna go ahead and leave the kick down linkage on because it looks like it's just all connected to the top of the motor. So we'll just unhook it there and it should just come along with it. So next, need to clean off this transmission support bracket and figure out which bolts are holding that on. So let's get to that. These exhaust bolts don't want to come out, so I think it's time we introduce a little bit of violence. Gonna need a new transmission cooler line. That's all right.
how to do this safely. Nope, we'll keep going up. And just like that, in the most environmentally friendly way, the engine is out. Now, I think I'm gonna go ahead and throw this in the back of my pickup. We're gonna go ahead and spray and maybe chip away some of this gunk, you know, take it to the car wash, get it all cleaned up, and then we'll start the tear down. Oh yeah, this is just caked on there. This is gonna take some time to clean. Look at that, there's shit here that you can't even see. Oh, there's a big one. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna be here for a while. And I think the next shot of this you'll see is in the back of the pickup, heading over to the car wash. Back from the car wash. It's a little cleaner. At least we can see what we're working with here. I went ahead and popped the inspection cover off. I'm gonna go ahead and spin it over and take the bolts off there, the nuts. I believe it's a stud style torque converter. But we're gonna go ahead and start the disassembly process. Let's go ahead and take this apart and see how bad it is inside. Looks like it's just a couple 9/16 nuts. Oh, they're really on there. But it's coming off all right. We'll have to go ahead and put these somewhere where we don't lose them. First one's off. Let's go ahead and spin the motor over and get to the next one. You know what, let's zip these spark plugs out too. Make it a little easier to turn the motor over. Kinda sooty, but not too bad. I have no idea when the last time this thing ran. That one's busted. Well, that's annoying. This one might just stay. Well, first problem, it's not wanting to turn over very easily. Okay, well, I guess it's a good thing we're tearing this down. It's gonna be real difficult to get those transmission bolts out. Let's go ahead and start up here on the rockers. Maybe get the heads off first, and we'll see what the inside looks like. Well, I went ahead and just zipped the starter off to get to the better access to the flywheel. Let's see if we can get this thing to move now with some leverage. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Hopefully that's enough. Oh, it's freeing up now. Whew! Thank goodness. I was not looking forward to just yanking the transmission off and probably breaking something. So, I think I'm gonna just spin it by here, by the flywheel, and get those torque converter bolts out. Torque converter bolts are out. Let's zip off these transmission bolts now. Oops. I think that's all of them. I'm not seeing. Yeah, that should be all of them. Let's see if we can't knock this thing out of here. All right, got some weight supporting the engine here. Oh, this is gonna be heavy. I just know it. You know what? I think I'm gonna call in some backup. All right, I did forget a tiny little bolt. It was hidden in grime, but it's free. It's out. So now we can take this off, torque converter off, and get the engine on the stand, ready for some teardown. Turns out I was in fact missing a bolt or a nut on the torque converter, but we got it off now. So I think it's time to get this thing on an engine stand and get to tearing down. So I probably should have drained the oil pan and left the plug undone before I took it to the car wash. She's a little overfilled, and as soon as that engine tipped backwards, it all came rushing out the rear main seal. Luckily, we are going to replace it, but let's go ahead and drain the oil pan here and see how milkshaky it got. Anytime, oil. Oh, here it comes. Oh. We're getting kind of full. little chunky there at the end. Yep, distributor's stuck. And it looks like someone has tried before. But I got a little PB blaster, giving it some heat. Let's see if we can't get this thing out of here. Yeah, this distributor is very seized in there. We're just gonna let it soak. Let's pop the heads off. And it looks like we're missing a few bolts. Someone has already tried to take this apart. So, good thing I got some new ones on order. I think that's all of them on this side. Just the 3 holding that one on. Four on this side. Let's see what mysteries this one holds. This one's gonna be messy, but oh, that's gross. Yeah, this thing desperately needed to come apart. Whole bunch of rust in every single one of these. It has been outside for a long time. I'm gonna go ahead and pop that one off. And if it's any worse than that, I'll show you, but otherwise, I'm just gonna expect the same thing out of that side. I'll just get my puller, we'll get this off, then we'll get the timing cover off. And I'm noticing, looks like we got a broken stud for the water pump. Gonna have to take that out in the garage and weld a nut up onto that and see if we can't get that one out of there. snapped off. Awesome. Ooh. That is chunky. Let's take a look at the crank here. Not too terrible, doesn't look like. That one's maybe got a little bit of wiggle. Not too bad though. I think we'll go ahead and get the oil pump off, the timing cover, and just get this thing kind of cleaned up, strip it down, and let's clean it up and get it ready for some paint. That is all the bolts that I can see holding the timing cover on. There we go. Definitely needs to be cleaned up a bit, but so does the whole thing. Let's check out. Oh yeah. There's plenty of slop in that. Go ahead and slide this off. Then we'll flip it back over and try and get the lifters out. They seem to be mushroomed a little bit in there. Let's actually try and pop some of these pistons out. See if we can't then push these lifters out from below. I'm having a real tough time trying to get them from the top. They're just so mushroomed that they'll only go up about quarter to half an inch and then nothing. It's like they're stuck in there. Try and punch them out or from the bottom here. First, I'm just going to remove oil pickup and pump here. We'll go through this as well. I did not order a new one of these, so hopefully it is still good. We'll have to remember when we put this back together though, pack it full of grease or something to get it started on that initial There's a pickup, or the tube, not the tube, the drive shaft. Doesn't look to be in too terrible shape. Pickup screen could be cleaned. We'll go ahead and set this aside. Now we've got a nice clear area here. They seem to be 1/2 inch. Let's go ahead and start from the back here. Might have to rotate it a little bit. All right, already dropped one. Come on. There we go. Let me wipe this bearing off here. Not too terrible. There's maybe a little bit of pitting right there, but ultimately it's just only barely starting to show a little copper right there, or brass. But I'm gonna go find a piece of wood to knock that piston out of there. Maybe this piece of plastic will do. Nope. Oh, shit. I should have caught that. Similar story for the bearing on the next piston. This one's got a little bit more copper. I'm gonna go ahead and try and be a little bit more careful in catching this one. One successful piston removal. Yeah, these rings are stuck in there. That oil ring looks clogged. The bearing looks decent, but I'm just gonna go ahead and pound out the rest of these and see if anything else is wrong with them, and try and find try and find another piston for it, or maybe order one. But I'll get back to you once these are all out. Let's go ahead and pop this crankshaft off. I'm just going to work it from both ends. Come on in, and we'll pop all the hold-offs down. Take a look at the bearing material. Or I'll have to charge the battery first. Yep. Got a fresh battery here. Let's keep going. Alright, so the big thing is going to be remembering which one is which. So I'm just going to set them in the order, front to back. Crank bearings, not too bad. Still a little bit of life, but we're just going to go ahead and replace them anyway. Lucky for me, it looks like they're already cast with, looks like a 2 and an arrow going forward. But similar thing, I'm gonna go ahead and take all the rest of these out and then pop the crankshaft out. Last one's off, all fairly similar. So let's gently take this out. The journals don't look too bad on it. Go ahead and set this aside. Now that that's off, I've got the camshaft retaining plate off, but it's kind of stuck in there. So I think I'm just gonna go ahead and get a screwdriver or a pry bar and just gently work this out. Hey, we're finally in the garage now. Nice heated area. Got the head gaskets off. I'm just gonna go ahead and take a wire wheel and we're gonna prep this surface up. Block is basically completely stripped. Still got the camshaft bearings in there. We'll inspect those, see if they need to be replaced. But in the meantime, let's get this thing ready for paint. I'm just going to get as much junk off and then probably soak it. See how that works, get all the oil passages done, soak it, and then wheel it back out in the driveway so all the neighbors can watch pressure wash it. But let's get to it. Oven cleaner.
just some cheap dollar store, or in this case Walmart brand oven cleaner. I love this stuff. You saw me use it on the tractor. Any kind of greasy, grimy, something that's been on there for a while, this stuff will take it right off. So I'm just gonna go ahead and give it one last little bath in this, and then before we get the pressure washer out, I'm gonna go ahead and get these cylinders honed out. Now they don't look terrible, but if we're gonna put new rings on the pistons, we might as well give them something to seat. So I'm just gonna coat this and let it soak for a little bit, and then we'll get to that cylinder hone. So what do I mean when I say hone? Basically, I'm taking these flat stone pieces, and what I'm trying to do is introduce a brand new crosshatch, probably anywhere from 15 degrees, 10 to 15 degrees, with the face of the block here. And what that's going to do is put little microscopic scores all up and around the cylinder wall, and that's what's going to hold the oil to keep this lubed as the cylinder's going in. So first, I'm just going to get it, after I've cleaned it, I'm just going to get some kind of oil, something slippery, and get it all up in there. And then close that in. I like to start with it all the way in. And then as I'm spinning, I'm just going to quickly go up and down to get that angle of that cross hatching. Just trying to keep a steady pace. Do it about 20 times. And there we go. Now, just rest that. Now I'm just going to take a napkin or a towel or something, wipe out all that gunk. And then, as you can see, there's a few little scratches all up and down, and that's exactly what we want. I've already gone ahead and done the second one here, and you can see there's a little bit of this deformation. It's smooth to the touch, but I may hit this one more time. But I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest of them, and then on the other side as well. But that's all we're doing. We're just getting this cylinder wall ready for new rings. All right, one last coating of the oven cleaner, going all over it. Get all the heavy deposits all in the lifter valley and on the edges here. We're going to do the heads as well. Alright, let that soak, and we'll get the pressure washer here going. And try to keep as much water out of the garage as possible.
Alright, figured it'd probably be smart to get out of something white and something dirty on. Just doing a little outgassing now. Just taking a torch here, kind of going through all the surfaces that's going to get painted. Just burning off all that oil and junk that the block has soaked up over the years. You can kind of start to see it change colors as it's burning that off. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a few passes like this around the whole block and the heads there. Get this thing ready and prepped for some paint. Got the block all cleaned up. Let's go ahead and lay down a coat of primer. And we're gonna try and see if we like this semi-gloss black engine enamel. So got it mostly masked off. There's some parts that I don't really care about. You'll never see them, or we can scrape some of it off, but see how we like this. All right, that's had a few minutes to tack up. Let's see what some color on it looks like. All right, give that a few minutes to tack up and come back for a second coat. Didn't work. Finally got that little bastard out of there. All it took was, ooh, it's kind of hot still. All it took was an old lug nut and a whole lot of weld. Finally came out though. So we can start cleaning up that mask, or cleaning up that mating surface and getting this water pump and the rest of the block put back together. Let's put some attention to the heads here. I'm gonna go ahead and use this big old C-clamp. Compress the springs. This bottom side's pushing up on the valve stem, or on the valve. Sock it over, should break this free, and then we'll switch over to the other tool to get the keepers out. Oh, these are stuck. Jeez. There we go. Just a little bit of heat. A little bit of heat on the top there. I got the actual tool on it now. C-clamp works to really break it free. So the keepers and this retainer up on top are really stuck. So what's happening is when you push on it, it's just pushing the whole assembly down, and then the valve is dropping, and you can see when it does that, there'll be daylight in there. So putting the socket over it and wrapping around to the bottom of the valve is breaking it free. And now with this tool, I can go ahead and just get in there with a magnet or a pick and grab those keepers out, and then the spring comes out and the valve drops to the bottom. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that for all these. I'm guessing they're all going to be stuck, and then we'll get back and start lapping them. Well, it took me to the very last valve on this head to figure this out, but if you've got stuck retainers and keepers on there, it's pretty easy. Just get yourself one of these Harbor Freight tools and get it cranked down to where it's kind of tough right there. Then you can just take a mallet and give it a good whop right on here, and it'll break it free, and then it'll come right out. Just get one little, and it broke it free right there. And now I can keep going with the screw handle here at the bottom. Get it down low enough past these keepers, and then I just take my pick, slide it right out, and just like that, loosen it up, and that spring will come right out, and that valve will slide right out the bottom. And if I'd learned that right around here, probably would have taken me about half the time to get this done. And
this valve is stuck. Uh-oh. Every other one of them was coming out easy. Oh, I can see why. It's pretty rusty. Believe it or not, this is the only one that's been fighting me. There we go. Let's see how bad it is. Well, it's not the worst one. You can see it definitely needs to be lapped. There's some pitting. Take a wire wheel or something, get all this carbon off. But I've got the rest of them sitting there all nicely in order in the way they came in, because you want to put the valves, right where they originally were. But we'll go ahead and start cleaning these up. All right, so before I lap the valves here, I'm gonna go ahead and take it to the old eyeball tickler. I've got the valves on the end of the drill, so I'm just gonna slowly spin it. Try and knock off all this carbon buildup. Trying to avoid this lip here, but I'm just gonna go ahead and do the face of it here, and what do you want to call that, the flange where the carbon is, avoiding this area where it's supposed to be a nice seal around that stem. But let's get it going. All right, let's focus in on it. Much cleaner this side, not as much carbon buildup. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that to the rest of these ones, and then we'll start lapping them. All right, so the idea of lapping the valves, basically all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this grinding compound. I'm just gonna put a tiny little bit around the very edge of this valve, because I don't want it to get into the seal. But this is just a very fine rubbing compound. It's got some grit to it. What I'm going to do is just rub it within its own seat, thus making a perfect seal. I'm going to use this this tool here, got from an old guy, and it's got a suction cup at the end, and like a fishing crank, like a fishing pole crank almost, but it's going to alternate directions there. So we just get it on like that. I'm just going to kind of pick it up and set it back down. Now you can do this faster with a drill on the other end, but I'm going to try this guy's old machine here. And just unscrewed the handle. First time using this thing, by the way. So I guess it only likes to be spun in one direction there. I don't know, it just kind of seems to be rotating the boot. I'm going to try the drill method. Well, I just unthreaded a goofy little handle, and you can buy a tool at, I saw them at O'Reilly. It's like just a wooden stick with a suction cup on either end, so essentially that's the same thing. And you just kind of Boy Scout it like you're starting a fire. And I don't know if you can hear it over the heater, but you can kind of hear it go from a gritty tone to a much more smoother, kind of like that. But you just want to kind of pick it up and go back and forth like you're starting a fire, and until it pretty much always sounds smooth. So what you're gonna come up with, if I get a towel, you'll end up with a much cleaner lip around the edge. So I'm gonna go ahead and just keep at it, finish up this row, and then go ahead and do the exact same thing on the other head. So I'll get right back to you. All right, got the heads all put back together. New valve seals in there. Lapped them up, cleaned them up. So let's move back onto the block here. I've already got a couple of the freeze plugs in before I forget these. So basically, I'm just pounding them out with a screwdriver, and then taking the new ones here, just putting a very thin coat of RTV around the lips, and then a little bit on the plug itself, just a very thin coating. And then just set it right there. I'll wipe my fingers off here. Then I'm just taking a socket that kind of fits, not too tight, but not too loose, just around the edges there. Get it all kind of flat. And then just start driving it in. Some of them have been fighting me, some haven't. There we go, now it's starting to go in. Keeping an eye on the high spots. This one's kind of going in a little crooked. And just a few good whacks and it finally started coming in flush. But all I'm doing is I'm getting down to this bevel in the block and making sure that the top of the freeze plugs are at the bottom of that bevel. But got this side done, so I'm just gonna go ahead and roll the engine over and get the other side. All right, time to drop the crankshaft in. I've got the new bottom bearings slid in, you just roll them on in. Let's see. Gently place it in. Then I'm going to go ahead and grab all of the caps, put those bearings in, and we'll press them on. And we'll use, I'm going to go ahead and use this plastic gauge, and I'll show you a little bit more in depth on that. But we're just going to go ahead and put all the caps on with the bearings, put a little piece of this plastic gauge in there, then you just torque them on down, pop the cap back off without spinning it, pop the cap off, and then basically how much it presses out is going to tell you the clearance. Make sure we got the right bearings, and if not, we'll have to order some new ones. All right, so I got a little piece of plastic gauge there, new bearing on the cap, slide that on like that, get these started. Alright, well, I've just seen a picture online that said 70 foot-pounds for the main caps, so that's what we're going to do. Just going to go in to out, And then once we're done torquing them, without spinning it, we'll just pop them back off and take a peek at our tolerance, or our clearance. Alright. Now let's zip them right back off. Now I'm just going to go out to in. All right, so with the plastic gauge off here, you can kind of see it's right at that, right at about that 15 thou. So I think that should be right within spec. So go ahead and pop the rest of these caps off and clean off. You don't want to run it with the plastic gauge in there. Clean it off real good. Get the main bearing, at least the engine or the block side. Not the main bearing, the seal, main seal. And then get this all bolted back down into place. Well, I think it's about time for some new pistons. Fresh from the machine shop. We already know I may have broke the skirt off one of the old ones, so decided to splurge for some new cheapo piston heads using the same connecting rod, but they're press fit wrist pins, so had to take them to the shop because I don't have the tools for that. But let's go ahead and gap the rings here. Be gentle with that. Got the top compression ring. All I'm going to do for that is you just sneak it, very gently sneak it into the bore here. And then I just take the top of the piston head and push it half an inch in. Make sure it's somewhat squared. That should be fine. And Google says should be anywhere between 10 and 20 thou. So I'm going to take a 15 here. And all I'm going to do is shoot for that gap right there at the bottom. And I just want this guy to just drag along it. There's a little bit of wiggle room. Let's see what 20 does. So here's 20. Yep, I can just feel it start to drag. So luckily, probably don't have to grind these down. But what I am gonna do is just file the sharp edges so that it doesn't score up the inside of that. But I'm gonna do that for the top ring and the second compression ring. Let me grab one of them. We can do the same thing here. I gotta be really careful because it's still kind of cold in the garage and I don't want to snap one of these. Yeah, plenty of room. So let's go ahead and move over to the workbench and get these rings put on. All right, so when you're doing piston rings, you really want to start bottom and work your way up. That way you're not having to fight getting it over the rings above it. So I've already started with the oiling ring because they're usually a lot flimsier and thinner. So I start with this corrugated looking one, and then I went and put the bottom ring on. So that's the thin, another thin one here. So each one has two, one on top, one on bottom. So you can kind of just work it on down, and it should just pop right in place just like that. So now I've got the first oiling ring, or the first ring, and then we'll start with the second. And when you get a kit like this, you usually should have it written on, you know, which one it is so you don't get confused. And I use this handy little snap tool, and then you just want to slowly expand it, mostly because I'm still in, like I said, cold garage, so you just want to work it open, sneak it on the way down, just like that, easy enough. And then this one, bags at the top, so we'll go ahead and put this ring on the top. Slowly working it open until we can slide it right in place. And that's all there is to it. So then when you go ahead and are ready to put it into the bore, you'll see there's these two gaps in the rings. You're just going to want to have those offset, probably 180, just so you don't have compression leaking through all of it. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these by measuring. I'm just going to go measure the rings, and then I'll label which piston is which, because I'm sure they're all going to be slightly different with that hone. And then we'll get to pressing them into place. Alright, so one quick thing before I get going too fast. These second one, or the second rings, they've got little markings right on the edge here. I don't know how well you can see it, but it says top. So that just means this side should be facing towards the top of the piston. These top rings, I'm not seeing any kind of marking, no dot or writing or anything on here. So hopefully that means these are bidirectional, but these definitely have a direction. So keep an eye out for that if you're ever doing these. But I'm going to keep looking out and keep working on these. I think it's time for some pistons here. So I've got all the rings and everything put together. Let's get some bearings. So I went with just the standard size bearings, only because I didn't do any machining. So there's a little notch. We're just going to put the notch of the bearing in and just roll that bearing in. Make sure it's seated. And then same thing with the cap. Notch in the notch, roll it in. So then when we're ready, we're going to match the notches up, and that is supposed to prevent the bearings from spinning. And then to keep the studs from hitting the crank journal on its way in, I'm going to just cap these off with some fuel line. And now to get the Harbor Freight special ring compressor. Oop, that is entirely too much. Essentially all this is going to do is squeeze the rings down. So slide it. Oh, need to open it just a little more. Let's try that. go. Oh, and then before I forget, so the pistons, you can see there's an arrow that they have so conveniently engraved on the top. That's pointing towards the front, and also on the side there's an F for front. Just want to make sure it goes in that direction. So first, I'm going to put some assembly lube. It's kind of still cold in the garage here. Just going to put a little bit of assembly lube on here, just so on that first startup, she's not running dry. Get it nice and evenly coated. Make sure it's pointing the right way. And we'll get it started here. Make sure the rod's going in straight. And you're supposed to be able to stick an Allen key or a hex key in there, but cheapo Harbor Freight one just stripped right out, so I use a pair of clamps or some pliers. But I just want to make sure the sleeve here is tight up against the wall. It's starting to compress, maybe. Oops. It's tough to do this right-handed as a lefty. But I'm just going to keep making sure this is seated nicely. I can't do this right-handed. Let's see if that's good enough. And then just gently start tapping it in. And you'll know it's in once this pops off. So now I'm just going to make sure that the rod goes on the journal nicely. And the other thing is, I probably should have lubed the cylinder walls, but I think they should still have a little WD-40 on it. But it seems to be going on all right. I think we're on. All right, got it spun over here. Take those off, set those aside. Now we're gonna do the same thing. Little assembly lube on the cap. Get it spread on there a little more evenly. All right. And now we're going to check to see where the notch is on the actual rod. Their nuts go on. And then just snug those down, and 7 more to go. I know I've been jump cutting a lot on this, but I mean, it's pretty much the same thing over and over again, and I don't have a whole lot of memory on my phone to do a full time lapse. So I'll get back to you when all those pistons are back in. Pistons are in, oil pump is on. It does take a little bit to move it, but I'm gonna go ahead and blame that on it being really cold in the garage, and that assembly lube is really thick and it was almost acting like glue. But I can do a few full rotations here and I don't feel anything catching or grabbing. It's just kind of tight. So now, time for the bump stick. Go ahead and you can see it takes a bit for this assembly lube to come out. We're just gonna go ahead and do it real slow. Do it maybe one bearing lobe at a time. Oh, it's really sticky. And then just carefully guide it in. Where's it getting hung up? Right at the very end where it's most difficult. Alright, camshaft is in. It's spinning around nicely. So now, looks like I'm missing the pin for the timing gear. And I gotta find the retaining plate for it. So we'll get that slapped in there. Let's pop this timing chain on. So I've got the bottom gear here. So all I'm gonna do is line this dot up with the dot up on this one, and then get that dowel pin on the camshaft here. Just line that up. Give a little help. There it goes. Make sure not to pinch my fingers. looks to be in, but that dowel pin's not coming all the way through. Might have to find a longer one because the fuel eccentric that rides along it, that dowel pin's supposed to stick through, give it something to bite to spin. So I might have to play with this just a little bit. All right, got that set up. Now you can see that dowel pin got a little bit of a longer one there. Shout out Baumgars for having a whole bunch of different selection. But we've got now the dots are lined up. Fuel eccentric is on. Next, I'm gonna clean up that timing cover, get some oil all over this, and then slap that timing cover on. Got the surface all prepped up. Just gonna match up the gasket, make sure it's right. Close enough. Got a little folded in shipping. But I'm gonna go with the blue RTV, and all I'm really gonna do is put a nice thin layer on both sides here. Just starting it out with a nice little bead. And just start spreading it across the whole thing. It's gonna get messy. That's all right. More kind of thin. Okay, let's get the other side. This stuff should be plenty sticky to get it to line up and stay in place. Oh yeah. That's pretty close. Now, with the new seal pressed in, I got this side cleaned up too. Let's line it up. Got some new hardware down here. Come on. It is cold still. All right, just like that, timing cover is back on. Next, it's the water pump. All right, going with metal side down. Carefully line up the pins. Start threading. New ARP bolts going in. I have no idea what these are supposed to get torqued down to, so I will have to Google that. But I'm just going to start them all by hand.
Ooh, that one's not good. Why is that one? That's right, we're not building a performance motor. All right, well, I can't read the best, but I do know what numbers are. And that's saying 70 foot-pounds in 3 steps. So I think what I'm gonna go ahead and do is probably 35, 50, 75, or 70. So again, starting inside out. Right, now for the next side. All right, so went ahead and threw all of the lifters, push rods, and the rocker arms on. Kind of skipped the boring part, but I'm gonna go ahead and lash all the valves. And what I mean by that is I'm gonna get rid of this this up and down slop on all of them. So I already did the first cylinder. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow the firing order and just go back and forth according to that. And the way to do that, so the next one here is 5. I'm just going to go ahead and put the ratchet on here. And as I'm tightening, I'm going to keep pushing up and down on this rocker shaft, or this push rod, until I get all that up and down slop out of there. I'm going to do it on both the intake and the exhaust. Just like that. So now all that up and down lash, is gone. And then when all that's done, I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna put preload on it, probably half a turn maybe. So let's get to it.
All right, and that's how I lash valves, even though I like Chrysler's rocker shafts better. All right, time for the shiny, pretty stuff. Time to put the new intake on. So I already got the gaskets, the intake gaskets. I've got some RTV around the water jackets. I'm gonna go ahead and put a fat bead right here on the china wall. And then right in the corners there at where they meet. And same on this side. Use up damn near a whole 2 of this. But we want a really nice squish out for that. And some new cheap Chinesium hardware. Alright, let's get this lined up and dropped in place. So I'm gonna go inside to out again. Just getting them snug for now. Gotta look up again what the torque spec is for these.
take a look at that squish out. So pretty decent on the backside China wall, and not too terrible up front. Hopefully that don't leak, but we'll go ahead and let that set up. I might wipe some of that out. Don't want to get in the way of the distributor. But then I got to figure out the torque specs, get these all torqued down, and then I got the oil pan all cleaned up so we can slap that underneath. Oh man, this thing is so gross. You can see all the grime I've already scraped. I've been soaking this in oven cleaner, hitting it with the wire brush, the scraper. All that sludge is from this too. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and skip this and move on to putting the heads on. Just getting a little dab of RTV here on the creases. And then I'm gonna match up gaskets where they go. That's this other side. This side. Yep. I'm just gonna put a little bead. A little bit of TV down. Spread that out a little bit. Same on this side. You know what? I'm gonna do the end ones here first. So these just go right over. They look to be the same. I don't think they're directional. Not entirely sure how it's supposed to fit with these little end clips in there.
I don't think I got enough RTV on the backside here. I can't get that last one to seal up nicely. So I'm just gonna go with a fat glob of RTV on it, I think. I gotta get some more here. Fuck it, we're gonna do some blue on the backside. No one will ever see it. No one will be the wiser, and you didn't see a thing. I'm sure it's totally fine to mix different colored gasket sealers. That'll be our little secret. It's a little better. All right, that is the last bolt for the oil pan. Don't know what more there is to do in the garage here. All right, I think we're at a good stopping point here. Pretty much got it all put back together, got all the big stuff. Thinking for part 2, go ahead and get all the little piddly bolt-on stuff, get the fluids primed in, get all the vacuum lines and all that ran. But I think I got plans for the transmission work and then a few extra things to do in the engine bay before this thing gets stabbed in there permanently. But thanks for stopping by and watching this part 1. Go ahead, subscribe. Stay tuned for the next couple parts coming out.